After World War II, Europe was carved up by the Soviet Union and its former Western allies, and the Soviets gradually erected an Iron Curtain, splitting the East from the West. Germany was divided into 4 zones of occupation under the control of the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin, although located within the Soviet zone, was also split amongst the 4 powers. The American, British, and French sectors would form West Berlin, and the Soviet sector became East Berlin. West Berlin became an island surrounded by communist East Germany. East Germany, officially known as the German Democratic Republic, became the Soviet Union's foothold in Western Europe. The division of Germany and the nature of its occupation had been confirmed by the Allied leaders at the Potsdam Conference between 17 July and 2 August 1945. East Germany had equality, no unemployment, free education, health, and aid for the sick, handicapped, and aged. It was an egalitarian welfare state with higher living standards than Germany had enjoyed before World War II. Yet by 1961, an estimated 3.5 million people had fled from egalitarian East Germany to inegalitarian West Germany, inducing the construction of the Wall. Millions left East Germany because they disagreed with the system. They found out that it produced equality by denying individual economic opportunities and political freedom. The official purpose of this Berlin Wall was to protect the communist regime from the influences of Western capitalism and culture from entering East Germany and undermining the socialist state. But it was primarily built to prevent defections from East to West.
The Berlin Wall divided families who found themselves unable to visit each other, and many East Berliners were cut off from their jobs. People did try to escape. Initially, they fled from houses right along the wall, and later those houses were emptied and turned into fortifications for the wall itself. Others plotted riskier escapes through tunnels on hot air balloons and even via train. Between 1961 and 1989, over 5,000 people made successful escapes. Others were not so lucky. At least 140 were killed or died while trying to cross the wall. Over the years, the wall became a grim symbol of the Cold War. By 1989, many East Germans had enough. They staged a series of mass demonstrations demanding democracy. Meanwhile, the Soviet bloc was destabilized by economic woes and political reforms.
2 years prior to the fall, Ronald Reagan addressed a speech challenging the Soviet Union leader Gorbachev to tear down this wall. Most listeners at that time thought the speech was just a dramatic appeal to Gorbachev to renew negotiations on nuclear arms reductions.
Ronald Reagan, he was always fun, especially in his later years.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Tear it down. Reagan smash! Reagan smash!
Nobody can forget Ronald Reagan's Tear Down This Wall speech that later led to a defining moment in history. East German leaders had tried to calm mounting protests by loosening the borders, making travel easier for East Germans. They had not intended to open up the border completely. After the botched announcement of the new plans for travel, thousands flocked to the checkpoints and demanded entry to West Germany. 500,000 people gathered in East Berlin for a mass protest against the Berlin Wall that's dividing communist East Germany from West Germany. The fall took place 5 days later on the 9th of November 1989. It wasn't until the 11th and 12th of November that the first pieces of the wall were pulled down. A hole was made in the wall segment, cutting off the Brandenburg Gate on the 10th of November, but then sealed off again by the East German authorities, and the wall did not come down properly until the 22nd of December. East German authorities initially began removing pieces of the wall using angle grinders, construction vehicles, and cranes in the days after November 9th. To create more crossing points between East and West, thousands of wall pickers with hammers and chisels came to take some of these pieces home.
People living in East Germany were unable to leave, and people were unable to get many luxuries such as coffee. Many families were separated by the wall and died trying to get over it. The wall affected people in many different ways. It also shows how the communists forced their ways on East Germans. The Berlin Wall meant a loss in human rights and freedom to many people. All the sadness and separation that happened during the time that the Berlin Wall was up can still be seen through the rubble left behind.
Since the downfall, the city has changed drastically. It strengthened itself as a global capital of the nation. Potsdamer Platz was completely demolished during World War II and was left empty and isolated, but now it's a major business district. The former checkpoint Charlie that divided the East and the West is now a major tourist attraction. The remaining parts of the Berlin Wall can still be seen by visitors and has been modernized by graffiti work. A wall memorial also still stands at what was once a historic border strip as a symbolization and a reminder of its position and how far the city has come.